All right, everyone, Supreme Kami over here. So it is time to do some alteration review for these two new units over here. So I will be doing a separate one, so going to be one for each. So I'm not going to go in any particular order. I'm just going to simply start off with the Wing Gundam because that is like the first thing on the list. So in terms of this week, we do have a double melee suit. So in terms of like, oh, which one should I really summon for? That one is purely depends on what you guys actually need, or what do you guys want, right? Because we do have a P attribute as well as a T attribute. So if you guys are leaning towards, oh, I need a little bit more on T attribute, someone on that one. If you guys are leaning more, oh, I need more P attribute, someone for that one. I will have to say both of them are actually kind of around the same realm. I don't think one is better than the other, but there are certain cases where one portrait is better than the other. So maybe those are some parts that you might want to save up for like a put that on like another one of those wish lists, for example. So maybe when we have those premium, not those premium, but maybe when we have those ultra banners, those are probably some parts that you can particularly just kind of pick up from the set. So I already did highlight everything that is what we'll be going for. So this time around, I'm gonna go with Wing Zero. So you guys can see that I already did highlighted the Unicorn Phoenix already. And in terms of the stat throughout across the board, you guys can see that the Wing Zero is just a lot more better. Just give you guys a little bit more insight, but this is that really makes that much of a difference. But we will definitely see as we do take a look at the portrait vortex and determine like which one is the better one and how good are they after alteration. So let me just start things out with a Wing Gundam over here. So in terms of all the vortex that is revolving around it, you're gonna see a lot of high mobility, close combat, and then high firepower. So that is generally gonna be some of your main relevant melee vortex, so that is always going to be a great start. So all right, so let's see what the head is looking like right here. So just right out of the bat, you guys can see that all the parameters are pretty much going to be standardized, I guess, in terms of these kind of stuff. They're not going to be anything too outlandish, not anything too high. So it's just going to be right around where you can see like everything around is, from 9,000 to like mid 8,000 to lower 8,000 is a pretty good range, I would have to say. And then obviously you have some lower NTs over here, like some big scale like these one over here. Big scale definitely going to be a lot more different because they do have a little bit more boosting to them, like the T attribute, enhanced double setup, for example. They will definitely be rated a little bit different. But in terms of these over here, like falling below the average line, these are kind of not looking too hot at the moment, I will have to say. But yeah, in terms of this head part over here, you guys can see that the armor is a pretty good melee, and then the melee defense is not bad at all. I would say the shot attack is definitely not really there, but overall speaking, this is definitely going to be a melee part. So in terms of overall portrait, you do have double the condition of using a high mobility. So this part is definitely for anyone that is using a high mobility build. So if you guys were doing that, this is definitely a part that you guys can particularly use, I would have to say. So for my testing early on when we had that warfare, the Donazan. This one is actually going to be another power boosting. So when they say, I don't know why they would want to reword it as like a melee cut or EX skill cut, or let's say shooting cut. But generally speaking, this is going to be another power boosting. So this is going to be 35 to a 30 to a 35 ratio. So in terms of these one over here, I generally don't like it when they do have double the same condition over here. It's good, for the easiness of it. But if you talk about, oh, someone that can't really use it, this head part is just gonna be a waste, for example. So simply enough, this one's gonna be for one that is able to use high mobility. If you guys are currently using high mobility, you can use it. If you guys are currently not, I don't think it's that good of a choice to, let's say, switch your build around to kind of use this test. So with that being said, that's gonna be it. So this one is a very situational one. This one I don't like to have double condition right there. That is the same. All right, moving on to the torso over here. Let's see what we have. So we can see that there is tons of armors on this one, and then tons of melee attack. So raw melee attack is going to be 6k, and then defensive stat is going to be 9,000. So that's actually quite good. The shot defense is actually not too bad. So that is still something we can kind of look at and be kind of pleased about, I guess, But in terms of this torso over here, it's pretty much nothing but a stat staker, for example, because you do have an EX skill, so which means you will most likely do have to subslot something or put this one as a subslot and have something that has a good portrait already to kind of benefit from that. So in terms of this one is going to be a basic, altered machine gun or machine cannon. So it's going to be pumping up A Pierce and a B power. So simply enough, this is definitely something, if you guys do already have something that's within the list right here that has a good portrait, I don't think this one is going to be another investment you want to go on ahead and alterate, for example, or even simply upgrading to 7 star, because this one have an EXQ, and then I don't think this EXQ is anything too powerful, either way. But yes, after alteration, you will gain that B power. So if you are planning to use this for like a long term EXQ, for example, you definitely have to alterate it. But like I said again, if you guys do have anything that is within the roster, for example, this is simply just going to be one good of a stat stick, which is not going to make that much of a difference. So definitely something over portrait is definitely going to be a lot more important. Like let's say Aegis Knight, for example, you have that, or maybe something along the line of like the crossbow, for example. Those are definitely some better candidate because they do have better portrait already, so you don't really have to worry about subsliding something that has a good portrait or subsliding into something that has a good portrait. So this one being said, I will not really recommend alternating unless you guys purely do want to use the EXQ, or simply this is the only part you have as that has a high melee attack rate there. So moving on to the arm is going to continue to show its a monster stat. So remember a while ago we got the Crossbone X-Wing full cloth, and I was like, man, this man has the highest stats in the game. But look at right now. So it looks like the Wing Zero is continuing to break all the barriers. So right now the arm is up to 18,000 with the conversion gear in mind. So that's kind of crazy. So what are we looking at with the raw melee attack? So 14,000, so that's pretty hot. And then defense at 9K. Jesus, man, what is going on? I will have to say the arm is definitely one of those parts you would want to alterate because you are getting that initial charge boosting, so that is definitely going to greatly help you in terms of kickstarting your first time users for EXQ, so that's going to be good. But my only, kind of like a drawback from this one is we have been seeing a lot of those like 25% for the initial charge and then 40%. If this was that 25% to a 40% ratio, I would definitely say this is going to be the best part you want to invest into, because simply enough, this is just going to make yourself easier in terms of getting some EXQ started. With that condition when buffed, so simply if you activate any EXQ that has that built-in buff condition activated, for example, if you use any EXQ like this one that does not have any buff activated, no additional effects, this one will not trigger that portrait, the secondary portrait. But if you use the EXQ something like this right here, that offer use melee attacks, physical resistance up, for example, this right here would trigger that secondary portrait, and this is how when buff the condition actually works. So that's that. So I mean, I don't really mind having that because simply when I do use the EXQ, I tend to pick up EXQ that has any buff that has any just attack buffer, for example. So for me personally, I don't mind that. But if you are someone that does not really revolve around using any EXQ that has those buff condition, this may be an arm that you don't want to invest into, and simply wait for something that has a little bit more generalized, maybe setting to like something else, for example. So this right here is going to be a very conditional one as well. So maybe something you guys can definitely look out for is trying to go for like the XM Riser. Just going to be a simple 40%, so no hassle. Not going to be too much of a problem activating it. I don't. Let me see if I can spot anything that has another similar. I remember the A to Z a while back when we had the A to Z arm actually has the same condition. So this is what I'm talking about, right? So this is probably what I want from the Wing Zero. If we can get this condition on the Wing Zero, this is definitely the best, the best arm to be looking at, because you're getting those pretty good utility trade that allows you to kickstart your EXQ a lot more faster for the first time users. So 20% is not bad, but you're talking about trying to execute a custom EXQ, one of those 30 seconds first time users, you will have to probably wait a few seconds at max, for example. So this one starting out is only 6%, while those ones that starts at 15, or the one that max at 25%, they start out at 15% already. So you guys can definitely see the differences we're talking about. So that's why this one can be good, but those are the 25% to a 40% ratio. Those are definitely the better situation. So this one is simply gonna be depends on the situation. But I still personally think this is a very good one for a lot of you guys out there. So moving on to the leg part over here. So the leg part is going to continue trend of having some ridiculously high melee attack. So that is definitely something we can just continue to see next week or the following week. We may see something a lot more higher, maybe jumping into 10k for melee attacks. So simply looking at the overall stat is not like the best case to determine, oh, should you get this part, for example. So that is that. All right, so in terms of the leg part, right? So let's kind of start things up, the overall parameter stuff. So in terms of the armor, that's pretty good. This one had no shot attacks. Wow, crazy enough, no shot attacks. So okay, so melee attack and melee defense is looking very good. Obviously, that's why you're rounding up to 9,800. So in terms of the overall portrait, so we're gonna start seeing a lot of these squad integrated portrait right here. So I'm gonna leave in the description below. Shout out to CF18 over on the Reddit side. So he went ahead and actually did all the testing for this over here. So simply enough, this actually does work by itself as well. So whenever you see the squad with the squad conditions or whatsoever, I think these are pretty much self-explanatory because when we do see EXQ effects that says, you know, oh, this one, not this one. This one is a bad example. Let's say when we see EXQ effects that goes along the line. Let me just pick something out here. So when we do take a look at these right here, so you guys can see that your squad. So your squad meaning yourself count as well. Whether or not you're playing solo or you're playing as a team, it will always activate. So those are some of the languages that is kind of, it's not really too, they don't explain it all that well, but in terms of like, if you do actually test it out yourself, it will, you actually get the benefit as well. So, but you guys can definitely check out CF18's post over on Reddit. He did like a full in depth of like just kind of doing like actual testing for you guys, so you guys can definitely check it out. I was planning to test it out myself, but I kind of knew it was already gonna work already. But if you guys do want like a little bit more detail on how that actually works, you guys can definitely check out his Reddit post over there. So moving back over here. So in terms of overall leg, this is a very good one to be looking at. So your overall squad is gonna get whether or not you want to play as a solo, for example, or a squad. Your overall squad will get that 90% cut in terms of the EX skills. So that is actually pretty good. So you know what you can do actually. So let's say you're not able to max out 100%, you know, CD reduction, for example. You can actually have your ally run multiple of this, given the fact that later on we will probably have more of this right here. You can have probably up to how many your two other ally run these types of portrait, and that will allow you to bump that percentage up a little bit higher. So that is very good in a way. Kind of do see that these will probably be the norm in the later future, so definitely not bad. But this one, in terms of the condition, does want you to be using in P attribute, so make sure that your ally or yourself is running P attribute, and then you should be good. So in terms of the secondary portrait, it's going to be your generally EXQ power boosting by 40%, so nothing too brand new right there anymore. But I will have to say this one is restricting to only using physical, so that is quite a bummer. But in terms of this one, even without alteration, it's really good. Whether or not you want to use this one purely for supporting type, or whether or not you want to fully utilize this for yourself, that is depends on what kind of build you're looking at. But generally speaking, the first portrait is already amazing. Just kind of slap that onto your ally, and then you can benefit that. What is it at base? So at base, you're looking at 9%, so that is still a very generous thing you're looking at. So simply slap this onto your ally, and you'll be able to gain that 9% or yourself as well. So very good. So this one right here, altering it does not really mean all that much if you simply care about the first portrait and you don't really need the secondary portrait. So that will be it right here. So moving on to the backpack, I believe this one is actually going to be our next counter in EXU. So this one is looking at, what is that, a max? So A pierce and A power, A minus power. I do want to check back at the full, the big scale enhanced. I would say that I just want to see if it's actually the same thing. Ooh, hold up. Wait a minute. Wow, so looks like the Wing Zero is a little bit better. So the Wing Zero is actually pumping out at A power. Wow, all right. That's hot. Actually, that's pretty hot. All right, let me jump over here. So again, the status is too good, too good to be true. It's 10k again on this man over here, crazy. So yeah, in terms of this one is over here, it's gonna be a lightning count. So this one is simply gonna be another. So whenever you see EXQ that has those bindable text that is somewhere along this general area. So this one, when you activate that, you can kind of counter them. So that's gonna be great. So in the upcoming video, I'll not like so in the upcoming videos and all that, I will definitely do an EXQ showcase of this one. Just want to see if you can actually break that counter mechanics over here, because in terms of the what's it, the tech attributes, the enhanced upper that you can actually knock an enemy down, and then you can actually break their counter. So I just want to see if they will work on this one as well. So this one is packing the generalized stuffs over here. So packing yourself a 48% max recovery to you only. So that's kind of a little bit selfish, I guess. Also gonna raise your own attack by 39%, and also raise your own physical resistance up by 29%. So this one is purely gonna be yourself only. So this one is specify only yours, not your squad. So that's gonna be the difference texting right there. So overall, not bad. So what is it without the alteration? I just want to see. Yeah, I mean, like, even without the alteration, it's still a very good EXQ, because you're already looking at better than the this one is already better than the enhanced with Zeta, for example. So that's kind of good. With the alteration, it's just a little bit more cherry on top, just a little bit more extra attack, a little bit of extra power. So that's kind of good. So if you guys to talk about whether or not you want to alterate it, simply the fact that you might want to do a little bit more extra damage, for example, or maybe if you. So this is looking back at later down the road, if you're able to pick this up, let's say from the premium capsule, once they add this in like many months later on. If you don't have the alteration tool, is still a very good EXQ to be looking at, because the B power, it should still hit it very hard, and then the fact that this is a counter EXQ, so that definitely works a little bit more different, I will have to say. But overall speaking, the backpack is pretty amazing. But in terms of the actual animation, from what I see from the Twitter video, is actually not all that hot. It's not packing anything too crazy compared to the enhanced double Zeta. So that was definitely a letdown for sure. But yeah, that's gonna be pretty much it. So all right, moving on to the lance heat lance temperance over here. So yes, this lance over here is actually kind of crazy. Look at the stats. So we're now jumping into 18,000 range. So that is roughly about, they're pretty close to getting up to those 19,000, 20,000 range. So that is kind of crazy. So in terms of this one over here, this one is continuing the trend of having those melee cut right there. So simply enough, this is going to be another power boosting. So that is actually good, because this one is going to be a double 40% power boosting. So one melee cut and then one EXQ power boosting. So this is a very good melee weapon to get yourself. Just trying to get one right there. But in terms of lance category specifically, I don't really like lance category all that much, because you guys can see in terms of, let's say you're not able to pull a second copy, what are you gonna subs on, right? So let me see how many big scale we have for lance category, and I don't think we have all that much. So there's literally nothing for your limited side, and then for your permanent side or your standard part, we only have one. Quite unfortunate, we only have one, so we're only left to using the Barbados fourth one over here, which this one actually does work, because you do have one pairing vortex, so you are able to get up to a 30.5%, up to a 35% sub conversion gear right there, or the conversion rate. So that's actually not bad. But you guys can see that it's only at 10,000 attack over here. So yeah, that's why I would say they're pumping out that much of an attack for that one solely, because of the fact that we just don't have any good subslot for lance categories. So that is definitely the unfortunate factor. But not to discredit that, this is still a very good melee weapon to be looking at. It's just that the subslot option is just very limited. If you're not able to put a second copy, you're just pretty much stuck to using a very low stat melee weapon. But this 40% is still a very good thing to be looking at. So definitely something you must want to alterate if you do have it. Alright, so up next we're going to talk about the round shield. So okay, so finally we have a proper 40% boosting for your shield over here. So Cold Sora has now been replaced, because the Cold Sora is definitely not the most ideal. This one, Cold Sora, is locked into the leg specifically, but this one is actually going to be a little bit more generalized in terms of a double melee, double 40% melee boosting with her. So this is definitely one of the parts, or one of the shield that you want to potentially get later on down the road. So not bad. Overall side is kind of crazy as well. You guys can see some pretty good armor, pretty good melee attack as well. And the melee defense is actually top the roof. 11,000, 11.7. That is actually kind of crazy. Okay. In terms of condition, over 10,000. So simply having this one shield is enough already. So if I'm not mistaken, I saw someone did post it somewhere on the Discord. This one at base level 90, I think either red marks or gold marks, you're looking at 10,000 already. So just with the shield alone itself is already gonna cover that condition already. So that's good. So this one does want you to use close combat, so that is kind of okay. That's pretty much they generally use a word tech for a melee build anyway. So this shield is definitely one of the better one out there. But in terms of what which is still the best shield, I would want to say that the Cosmos Shield, the Build Strike Galaxy Cosmos Shield is still a lot better in terms of actually in full effects, for example. But simply speaking, if you're not someone that uses any buff EX skill, or let's say your EX skill does not have any buffering on top of that, this one is still, like, I will have to say this one is gonna be a lot more better. But let's say if 3 of your EX skill is gonna be or have any built-in effects, the Cosmos Shield is gonna be better simply because you can stack those buff EX skill effects trade 3 times in a row. So that makes it 120% boosting instead of only 80%. So yeah. Alright, so with that being said, that's gonna be pretty much it in terms of the Wing Zero's alteration review. I want to say in terms of Wing Zero, it's definitely a very well designed in terms of portrait, stat, whatever you want to call it. Great word tag as well, so that is definitely something we can see. But like I said again, stat is definitely not going to be the thing that determine whether or not a part is good. Simply, the portrait is going to be the biggest determining factor. So that's why the lance, the shield, the arms, those are definitely some hot takes in terms of just alterating them. The leg wise, I do have a little bit of a reserve, like whether or not you want to alter in a spot, because simply enough, the first portrait is just good already. Simply altering it means you want to use this either on your main slot, for example, and then your ally, you don't really need to do all that damage anyways, or in a way, because in terms of allies, they're typically to support what the main unit is doing anyway, so I don't see too much purpose of altering this one. But overall, the arms, the lance, and then the shield, those are definitely going to be the biggest three to alterate on the spot. So with that being said, that's going to be pretty much it in terms of the Wing Zero over here. So up next, I will be talking about the Unicorn Phoenix up next. So with that being said, that's going to be pretty much it, and I'll catch you guys all on the next one.